Okay, give a heading: sustainable development. Sustainable development. Just write the definition. It refers to that process of development that could be sustained in future. So these are just very normal definition. The process of development that could be sustained in future. Or the famous definition which is given by UNWCED, United Nations World Commission on Environment and Development. United Nations World Commission on Environment and Development. So they have given a very famous definition. Most of you already know it. Even if you don't know, you have to know it from your GS3 point of view as well as from your essay point of view. There is a high chance that you will get a question on sustainable development in your essay. So what not only human development we have already covered, human resource development we have discussed. Okay, sustainable development, all these are human development is an essay topic, human resource development is an essay topic, inclusive growth we have discussed, that is also an essay topic. So here sustainable development, this is also a very potential, very important essay topic. So conceptually we have covered, when we talk about human development, we have talked mainly in terms of well-being, social well-being of the people. When we discussed about inclusive growth, well-being has to be the means and end are both are important when it comes to inclusive growth. So we have discussed about employability, productive capacity, etc. So when we discuss about sustainable development, it has to be the development that has to be sustained in the future. That is a normal definition. Everybody will do that. But this definition should be there in your answer paper. Just write one definition. The development that meets the needs of the present generation. The development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. The development that meets the needs of the present generation, the present, that's enough, present, without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So it basically calls for what? It basically calls for intergenerational equity. Just write there, intergenerational equity. It calls for intergenerational equity. Okay, so it means all about you can emit CO2, that is not the problem, but you have to keep within limit. It's not that you should not emit carbon dioxide. Okay, you need to talk about you need to focus on the development of this generation also. There is no question about that. But it should not be at the cost of the future generation. So the CO2 emission, the carbon dioxide, etc. has to be kept within the limit. So what is the limit? It is the limit of the capacity of the environment to absorb it. Okay, so you can just write one more line. It is related with carrying capacity. It is related with carrying capacity. Carrying capacity. What is carrying capacity? That is the capacity of environment to absorb the impact of human activities. The capacity of environment to absorb the impact of human activities. See, this definition was actually given in the report which was published in 1987. The report was One Common Future. Okay, the name of the report was One Common Future. Very important even from your prelims point of view also. One Common Future. Do you know who was the chairman? Very famous. This commission is very famous. Who was the chairman? Brundtland Commission. Brundtland Commission. He was the PM, Prime Minister of Norway. Okay, so it is Brundtland Commission. Okay, so in 87. In 92, what is the significance of 92? In 1992? Earth Summit, which is more important. Okay, so I am expecting that all these things you will be covering in your ecology. So this commission, Brundtland Commission, defined the sustainable development in this way: the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their needs. Okay? Now write the features of sustainable development. Features. See, what we have discussed under inclusive growth. Can you tell me can you just go for a recap of what we discussed under inclusive growth? Two things is what we have discussed under inclusive growth. Or if you talk about development, we basically talked about well-being, right? In case of development, we discussed about well-being. In case of inclusive growth, we discussed about well-being, that means welfare, social welfare, also increase in real GDP, right? Increase in real GDP. So when we talked about inclusive growth, increase in real GDP and social welfare. Here development only end what matters, right? That is, welfare is what matters, more important. So when it comes to sustainable development, what all things will be there? Firstly, there will be increase in real GDP. So what does this mean? Increase in real GDP means there is a development here. Okay, there is a development, that means increase in GDP, production, everything is promoted. Okay, not only environment is protected or taking care of environment when we talk about sustainable development. There is a component which is promoting the growth also. Most of the students understanding it in this way: when we talk about sustainable development, we are talking about environment. No, growth is there. Second, social welfare is there. Okay, social welfare means increasing well-being of the people. So here increase in production. So both are there. Thirdly, conservation of environment. Conservation of environment. Okay. So these are the three things. So here if you mark it as 1, 2, 3. Okay. When you talk about 1, we have discussed as what? 1 is what? The first one alone, if you take, what is that? We have discussed already. That is nothing but the growth, right? Economic growth. 1 plus 2, what is that? 1 plus 2.
Inclusive
Development. Development. Okay. 1 plus 2 plus 3, that is sustainable development. So I hope this is clear. So now just write dimensions of sustainable development. Dimensions. Basically the 3 dimension: economic dimension is there, social dimension is there, and then environment is there, not political. Environment is there. Political factors always are important for any things, but not much here. Okay. So economic, social and environment. That is what you can see here, right? So here these 3, when we talk about what is economic here, this is economic. First one is economic, right? Second one is social. Third one is environmental. Why are you not responding? So that is what economic, this is related to growth. Social, this is related to development. This is third one, environment, directly related to environment. So these are 3 dimensions. Now next, indicators. Indicators of sustainable development. So when we discuss about growth, indicators, like we have seen various indicators, right? Especially per capita income, GDP, etc. were the indicators. When we discussed about development, what were the indicators? We discussed about net economic welfare, we discussed about PQLI, we discussed about HDI, IHDI, MPI, okay, even real per capita income. All those were the indicators of development. So here, indicators of sustainable development. First one, green GDP. Again, I tell you, this is a chapter that we have covered in detail. Some of the videos you have to refer to the your application. I have not covered that determinants of economic development, but I've uploaded that. Okay, so you have to extensively cover this. It looks very simple. if you see the syllabus and the words which I have mentioned in the syllabus which is given to you, this chapter looks very simple. And forget about the calculation also. We have made it very complex, in fact, by using the calculation even in HDI and MPI, etc. But otherwise, you see the importance of this chapter, not only from economy, not only for prelims, mains, GS, okay, everywhere, and your essay, even in ethics also. The sustainable development will come, inclusive growth will come, development will come. Everywhere this chapter is going to be very important. Okay, so you need to have a very good idea about this chapter. It's not about just knowing the rank or HDI rank or MPI score, etc. That will not do. Maybe for prelims that is okay, but that won't be enough. So the way we covered this, I hope you understood the significance of this chapter. Very, very important chapter. Most of the people will just see the rank and everything, it's over. But I would say this is the most important chapter in your 20 modules that I have given. Okay, second. So green GDP, what is green GDP? Sometimes instead of GDP you will talk about GNP also. Actually both are same. Some small differences there, that is NFIA. So at this level there is no need to separate it. We know it clearly. GDP and GNP almost same except the difference is NFIA. You know it clearly what is NFIA. So sometimes you will see instead of GDP you will see GNP also here. Okay, so what is green GDP? You can write there GDP adjusted for environment. It is a GDP adjusted for the cost of environment. It is a GDP which is adjusted for cost of environment. Cost of environment. Cost of environment, you can complete it. Cost of environmental degradation. Adjusted for the cost of environmental degradation. Okay, now if you remember when we discussed about GDP and NDP, which one is better from this? GDP and NDP, which one is better? Which one will give you the actual production? GDP or NDP? NDP, because depreciation is also calculated in NDP. But when we discussed about NDP, I have told you, despite the fact that this is good and better, we are using GDP mostly. Why we are using GDP, why not NDP? Because the problem with the calculation, right? Depreciation, how can you calculate? That is a common problem. So here also when we talk about green GDP, here we can theoretically talk about all this cost of environmental degradation, etc. But how can you measure that? Is it possible? It is not possible. So it is actually a theoretical concept. Green GDP is actually a theoretical concept. But there are some countries have some method, and India we are also planning for some method. But it is actually a theoretical concept. The practical applicability of this is very limited. Okay? Next indicator you write, genuine savings. Genuine savings. It means savings for future. Okay, so genuine saving equal to gross savings minus depreciation in man-made capital minus, what do you think it will be? Okay, let me ask you, if you take these two, let's suppose this is 1 and this is 2. Gross saving minus depreciation in man-made capital, what will that give you? Why confusion? Gross minus depreciation, what is that?
Net savings.
Yeah, net savings. You will get 1 minus 2, you will get net, right? So here we are going for genuine savings. So gross minus depreciation minus, here we are talking about indicator of environment. So environmental aspect will come here, right? So minus, it will be depreciation in natural capital. That means environmental aspect. So this is not clearly defined. Again, there is a problem, okay? So what is natural capital? Anything which can assist production and productive capacity can be natural capital. Anything which is affecting the productive capacity is understood as natural capital. But it is obviously difficult to measure. It's a very vague concept. See, even just before only I have told you we are not calculating net. Why we are not calculating net? Depreciation in machinery itself is very difficult, right? Different people and different methods will be giving a different idea. So how about depreciation of natural capital? So this makes it very vague. 1 and 2 itself, this alone is, difficult to calculate because of this aspect. So depreciation in natural capital, it's making it very vague. So both indicators we have discussed, there are practical problems in the application, whether it is green GDP or genuine savings. But theoretically, you should be knowing, in case if the question is asked, you should be in a position to understand it, okay? And in your essays and all, you should be in a position to talk about this in your mains and essay. In case of prelims, if they're asking, you should have a clear idea what is this. Okay? Okay, now next is threats to sustainable development. Threats to sustainable development. So first one you can write common things only. These are not difficult. Depletion of resources. Depletion of resources. Okay, depletion of resources, both you can say renewable as well as non-renewable. When we talk about non-renewable also, non-renewable anyway, there is a clear-cut depletion like fossil fuel, okay. Renewable means we are talking about solar, wind, etc. But when we talk about water is also renewable resource only, right? But there is a limit to pump water. You cannot keep on pumping unlimited amount of water. There is a limit. So depletion of resources, both renewable and non-renewable. Second, degradation of environment. Degradation of environment. So under that you can write pollution, deforestation. You need to expand this, okay? You have to write all this in paragraph if the question is asked. I don't think that I need to explain about pollution, deforestation, etc. So just write pollution, deforestation, soil erosion, okay? Salination of soil, etc. So you will study all these in geography. You might have studied already, or you are supposed to study anyway. Pollution, okay, deforestation, soil erosion, salination of soil, etc. Third, you write loss of biodiversity. Third one, loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity. So you can see both animal and plant species are decreasing. So it will actually very badly affect the ecological cycle. The balance will be affected. So the availability of food and medicines will be affected very badly. So just write loss of biodiversity. Animal and plant species are decreasing. It will affect the ecological cycle, or the ecological balance will be affected. Okay. Now what we need? We need measures. I am only giving you the skeleton of your answer, okay? Here you need to add, depends on the demand of the question. In case of GS, this much is enough, but if it is essay, you have to expand it and you have to bring in various perspectives. You also need to talk about Gandhi statement, okay? What is that? What is Gandhi statement in the context of environment? And yeah, at least you should be knowing this thing.
Need can be fulfilled, but greed can't.
Not greed. Nature has everything to fulfill the need of the man, but not the greed, right?
Yeah.
So environmental ethics, when we discuss about ethics, you have one dimension in ethics, environmental ethics. So all these things, sustainable development, etc. will come there also. So the scope is actually unlimited. Okay, measures you write. Common only, judicious use of non-renewable resources. Judicious use of non-renewable resources. You can write faster, okay? Judicious use of non-renewable resources. Development of non-conventional sources. Development of non-conventional sources like biodiesel, etc. Okay? As an alternative to the current setup. Improve technology. Even renewable also you need to use within limit. I've told you water is renewable, but unlimited use of water is not possible. That also lead to some ecological crisis, right? If you see green revolution areas, what is the main problem? Salination of soil, right? So that issues are there. When you're pumping extra amount of water, it will be there on the land for a long time. So that lead to salinity of the soil, and the soil become not fertile after some point of time. So in green revolution area, that problem is there. That's why the second green revolution reform, coal, etc. is there. So renewable resource also you need to use within limit. Okay, you can also talk about biodegradable items. Avoid production and use of rather than talking about use, you can say production of biodegradable item, non-biodegradable item. Avoid production of non-biodegradable item like plastics, etc. You can talk about organic farming to be promoted. Organic farming. In bracket, if you want, you can write organic fertilizers, biopesticides, weedicides, etc. Like cow dung, manure, all those things can be used. Okay. Next point you can write, price or product subsidies should be replaced by DBT. Price or product subsidies should be replaced by DBT. See, when you are giving price subsidy or product subsidy, what will happen is it lead to overuse. For example, when you are giving subsidy to urea or you are giving subsidies to water, etc., it lead to overuse. Okay, so rather you should go. I will discuss this in more detail, how and what is the impact of giving subsidies, etc., in the next module that we will be talking about agriculture over there. So I'll discuss it in detail over there. Okay, so not only overuse that will affect the environment, but also wastage of resources. Okay, so go for DBT. That means first you buy from your pocket and then government will give you. So when you are buying from your pocket, there will be always that limit in spending. Okay, then there should be a market linked approach. Government should go for market linked approach, like polluter pay principle. Under that you can write polluter pay principle. In bracket, if you want, you can write pollution tax. Pollution tax. You can also give subsidies on environment friendly technology. Subsidies on environment friendly technology. Environment friendly technology means you can give subsidies to solar cells, etc., right? So that will be an incentive to go for these kinds of things. So subsidies on environment friendly technology. And obviously you should talk about any essay, any answer, you should talk about community participation. Community participation. Local bodies. Okay, even in your ethics paper also you have to write all these. Community participation, local bodies. And one more cooperation that you need to write in all your answers is international cooperation. Because environment, this is not the, it is not localized issue. Okay, this is international issue. So global level it is going, right? So international cooperation. And way connected to this, you have studied many things in your environment and ecology module. So you can add all those different protocols, different initiatives, etc. here. So with that, we have done with this particular topic.